before we get started, my name is Fresco, and I wanted to give a special thanks to Kasukabe.kitaro and Akane, the model, for the reference photo I'll be using to paint from today. So, without further ado, let's get started. As you can see, with any landscape painting, I usually start with the sky, which usually has the smoothest gradients. And because I'm using my trusty color picker in Rebelle 8 Pro, that's the software I'm using, I use the color picker to help make this painting process go quickly. I'm choosing colors directly from the photograph. And it might seem easy, but many times when you use the color picker, you might not get the right hue or the right contrast compared to the paint that you've already placed on the canvas. And so there is a lot of trial and error even though I'm using the color picker, but it still does help things to go a little quicker for the purposes of this video. And because the sky and the ocean are almost similar in colors and hue and how shall I say, intensity, I choose not to separate them in this painting. And so I'm blending them in, putting in the waves, and choosing the darker colors to bring out the small details and textures in the ocean. Usually with a landscape painting like this, I would start with the background. And to be honest with you, when there is a portrait painting, I usually start with the background because it helps me to create the tone and the feeling that I'm trying to elicit in the painting. Now, if you can see, I have, well, 3 paintings surrounding this painting. They are my reference photos, and I'm using those paintings specifically to set the tone to make sure that I'm not painting like a photocopier machine. I want to make sure that my painting looks and feels like a classical, how should I say, realistic, traditional painting rather than a digital painting. Now, Rebelle 8 Pro does a really good job at giving you the tools to make sure that your painting looks realistic. The oil paints, the watercolors, the acrylics, they all interact with the canvas realistically, which is really powerful. It's probably one of the only painting tools that I've found out there that really simulates real paint. That feel is amazing. So I started out here with putting down the, how shall I say, just the basic shapes and forms, blotching down colors, just laying down colors, basic colors, not many, of the portrait here. And the first part of any painting, you really want to start as general as possible, not to fixate on the details. And so that's what I'm doing. And one of my tricks when it comes to staying in the lines, as you can say, for someone that is not accustomed to drawing and painting, I usually have my outline on top as the top layer. As you can see here, I'm painting and the white outline is not getting covered by the paint. So this is one of the tools that I use to make sure that I'm staying kind of where I want the paint to go. I'm not being exact, but I'm trying to make sure that the paint is going generally where I want it to be. And throughout the process, you will see that I am hiding the layer, the outline layer, just to make sure that the painting is looking the way I want it to, because those subtle lines that you see there, those white lines, can actually hide the edges. That will make a significant difference in the features of the painting. And so every once in a while you'll see that those outlines will disappear, but also eventually I will start to use the outlines less and less until they're gone. So you can see just now that I just removed the outline, and now it's time to start putting in the shadows and the depth of the painting to give it that 3D pop. And usually start with the darker shadows, and first I do lay down a mid-tone, and then I start putting down the darker shadows, and then the next level up from there. And the idea is to move throughout the painting and bring up the painting together all at once. And that's kind of what I was trying to do here. I'm not sure if the process came out that way when I recorded it, but that's how I paint. I want to bring up the details together holistically. That way I can figure out when I need to stop painting. It's a little bit more realistic because you don't want to overpaint and isolate one spot on the painting and really focus on the details. So bringing it up together helps you to figure out the fine balancing act of how much detail you need to put, what edges needs to be softer in the paintings, and what edges you need to bring out that should be sharper. And the sharper edges is usually where you want the most detail to be and where you want the eyes to focus. So as an artist, wherever you want the focal point to be, that's where the edges are gonna be sharpest. So, you know, as if you are someone that's just getting into digital paintings, you'll hear me say this many times. This entire process is pretty repetitive, and it's the same for almost every painting. Start with the general shapes and colors, mid-tones. Just lay down the colors and shapes and don't worry about the details. And gradually add details from largest to smallest, from darkest to lightest as you complete the painting. If you look at the reference paintings surrounding this portrait, you'll see that those aren't my paintings. Those are classical paintings I found on the internet from various artists that inspire me. And so I use various reference photos to make sure that I'm painting in a style that inspires me, but also to keep me from painting like a photocopier, like I mentioned earlier on, because I have a tendency to try to get into the nitty-gritties and try to make things photorealistic, and that's not really what I'm trying to do. I want people to see my brushstrokes. I want to leave hints that this was painted by hand and not by a machine or AI. And the imperfections is what really brings out the paintings. And so that's my intention. Now I'm gonna get a little deep here and speak philosophically, because if this is a metaphor for life, you surround yourself with people that inspire you, that you admire, and we tend to emulate people that we admire. And it's very important for us to put ourselves in the right environment. If we want to go a certain direction in life, be successful, build certain relationships, it's important that you find people that have paved the way, that have done it, that they have done exactly what you want to do, and you learn from them. There's a book that I read recently called Never Eat Alone. And in that book, it talks about the importance of surrounding yourself with people, and particularly eating, inviting people over just to have conversation and eat and enjoy each other's company, and also to be, how shall I say, generous with your time and give mentorship and to help others around you succeed, because that in itself will help you grow as an individual and to be even more successful. And this is something that a lot of wealthy, successful people do, is they actually have a lot of dinner parties, and it might seem vain and conceited and, you know, like a waste of time, like they're just having idle time, but there's actual strategy in that process in building those relationships. And so when I speak of reference photos, yes, there is a photo I'm emulating, and there's a photo that I'm trying to turn into a traditional painting, but the whole idea is to inspire and to put my mind in that growth mindset. Otherwise, I'll just revert to painting like a photocopier. So why did I choose this photograph to paint? Well, you know, I thought this photograph really stuck out. It's beautiful, has the ocean, and I'm from the Caribbean, and I love any ocean scene. Water itself is very reflective and detailed, and as a painter, you don't really need to try too hard to make water look realistic. As a matter of fact, the harder you try, the worse it looks. And so that's why I enjoy painting these types of portraits with landscapes or seascapes. And this is a specific type of ink that I particularly may not try to experience, but I do enjoy the aesthetic of it. I respect the intimacy, the meaning of this type of experience for other people. And at first glance, it might seem something strange, but there really is a lot more to what you see. And that's what I really enjoy about these types of photographs and paintings, is that there's so much more depth to it. It's contrary to what you might initially think. And that's the type of person that I am. Now, one of the hardest things that I'm dealing with as an artist right now, especially painting in Rebelle 8, is painting rope. And rope is one of the center focal points of these types of paintings. And I still haven't cracked the code for painting rope as yet. And that's my challenge. And so I've decided to not try as hard with putting in the rope details and textures, just to put the general highlights and shapes and colors down on paint, and just let the viewer's imagination fill in the blanks. And that's pretty much what I'm going to do moving forward until I have cracked the code. To be honest with you, that might be exactly what I should be doing anyways, because that's what I preach, and when it comes to painting and art. So, but I still think there's a lot to learn, and eventually I think I will master rope. As I continue to paint this beautiful portrait, you can see that I'm starting to focus on the water a little bit more. I don't want to make the water and the background the focal point, but I do still want it to add some kind of element of focus in the painting and to enhance the portrait. And so I'm being careful not to paint with harsh strokes. I want my edges to be soft. I'm painting, adding a little more contrast to the sky, a little more violet and purple, and adding a little more detail to the water with darker shadows and ripples and a little more highlights. So that's the next part of this focus here. And that really, if you think about the environment, like I said earlier, the environment is really what brings out a portrait. Sometimes you can have a portrait that is not as skillfully painted, but if you have an abstract background that adds texture and enhances specific focal points, you can really transform a painting. So I'm at the stage now where I'm kind of jumping all over the painting back and forth, just adding specific details to bring up the painting piece by piece, which is the funnest part, to be honest with you, because the painting really starts to come to life, and I really enjoy it. And if you guys have come this far into the painting and you were wanting to see how this looks at the end, thanks for watching, and hit that like and subscribe button if you want to see more like this. And I do have a following, and I have people that enjoy my work, and a lot of times most of my followers will commission me to paint something specifically as a decorative piece for their intimate spaces. Some have dungeons, some have their bedrooms, living rooms, where they want something a little more feminine or sensual or erotic, and they commission me to paint, and that's something I enjoy doing. It's an honor to be able to do that for people. I feel like it's definitely something I don't take for granted, because when it comes to art, if you can create something that resonates with somebody, even if it's just something beautiful, it doesn't have too much meaning to it, it's still something that's impactful to the artist and the receiver, or the eye of the beholder. There is a movement out there of artists and people that buy art that thinks every piece of art has to have some deep meaning to it. And I respect that, but at the same time, art doesn't have to have any meaning whatsoever. It can just be something beautiful, something painted technically sound, and something that just pulls you in visually. It doesn't have to have meaning. And sometimes that's what I'm doing. As I conclude this painting, leave a comment below if you like something that I did in the painting or something that I said. I'd love to hear your feedback. Also, what would you like to see me paint? You know, this is on YouTube, and I want to make sure that I follow the policies when it comes to the type of art I can put up. I don't want to offend anyone, but at the same time, this is, you know what this genre is. This is erotic, this is sensual, this is something to appeal to people's primal but also sensual nature and intimate nature. So this is what this channel is all about, honoring that. So yes, leave a comment below, let me know what you want me to paint. I'll see what I can do, and thanks for joining me, and I hope you enjoy the last remaining seconds, minutes of this painting. Have a wonderful day.